Okay, good afternoon everyone. Thank you for joining us for this special interview session. Today we have the privilege of speaking with an extraordinary individual who has created tremendous cultural bridges between Macau, Portugal and Taiwan. And so let me formally introduce our distinguished guest today, Mr. Carlos Couto. Okay, and he is a Portuguese architect whose remarkable journey bridges multiple cultures and professional domains. And beginning in 1981, I think that will be shown on the slide here, as you can see, Mr. Couto moved to Macau during its Portuguese administration, where he established the urban planning department and later developed an impressive portfolio of architectural projects, including the Macau Government headquarters, the first instant judicial courts, and also the Macau Fisherman's Wharf. And his career took a significant turn when he designed for Portugal pavilion at the 2010 Shanghai Expo and won a prestigious gold medal, gaining him international recognition. And this led to an invitation to design a Formula One standard race circuit in Taichung, Taiwan in 2012. And during his visit to Taiwan, Mr. Couto not only fell in love with the country, but also fell in love with the candy Ling. He's really lucky that his wife presents with him today. Okay. And so as you know, Candy is a Taiwanese as well, and they later become his wife and business partner later. Okay. And together they established the company called Voyager as exquisite trading company, and they also founded Tuga restaurants, which is a Portuguese restaurant located in Taipei. Okay, and they established the restaurant, I think, in the year of 2015. Okay, and Mr. Couto has been recognized for his cultural contribution with the Medal of Merit of the Portuguese community, which is the gold medal, awarded by the Portuguese government in 2022, for his role in strengthening the emotional and cultural ties between Portuguese communities worldwide. And his Tuga project embodied a unique business model focusing on promoting Portugal as a brand through key principles, including quality, authenticity, and also consistency. And today he continues to serve as a passionate ambassador for Portuguese culture, gastronomy, and wines in Taiwan. Okay, so welcome, Mr. Couto, and we are really honored to have you here today. Okay. So if you can use the microphone, okay? So we can move on to, we got several questions that can be discussed with Mr. Couto today. So the first questions is about the mixed culture background. So recently I've been reflecting on how our backgrounds shape our perspective, right? And your unique journey really stands out. So as we know, you have mixed culture backgrounds, you are Portuguese, and your journey from Macau to Taiwan really presents a fascinating cultural bridge, right? So what were the most striking differences and similarity you observed between these two Chinese societies during your transitions?
Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for coming. And first, in terms of these questions, I would like to highlight three key points. The first is more related with similarities. Okay, I moved to Macau in 1981, a long time ago, and I came to Taiwan very late, 30 years later, more or less. And the reason is not because I don't want to see Taiwan, it's because it was too close from Macau. And one of the things that made me driven to move to Macau was the willing of know the world, and this is, for the European, is very far away, coming to Asia. Then, when I have opportunity to have holidays, I always go to more far away countries, knowing that on the last moment I could come to here. Luckily, there was some incident that we'll probably talk later that makes me come to Taiwan and discover Taiwan. But if we talk about similarities and difference, because ethnic, the environment is Chinese, I should say similarities I found on the business mentality of doing business. And one funny thing I discovered is in the Chinese culture, many business is done on the table. Is on the when we go to close business, normally we end up having dinner together or lunch together, and it's on this process that there is a bonding between people. Sometimes it's more extreme, even we need to get drunk together to create that bonding. This is something that we don't have in our Western countries, and but I find similarities between Macau and here because I start my business in Macau. I have all my clients they are mainly Chinese, and everything is done on the table. Even the first moments I come to Taiwan, I still remember. I arrive, they pick up in the airport. I come with the designs to make presentations, and we go dinner immediately. And it was during the dinner that we mixed dinner, drinking, and showing the presentation. And very rarely I also finish a presentation because everything is okay. Next meeting will be the same. And this is a similarity that I find between the two sides of the strait. But now talking about differences, there are a lot. Okay, on the social behavior, I used to joke saying that the Taiwanese are a little bit like a Latin blood. It means the countries from the southern part of Portugal, of Europe, they are basically Latin countries: Portugal, Spain, Italy, and so on, Greece. And the way we behave is a warm way. Probably is related with the weather as well, because I have been visiting Sweden, and I remember people are more cool on the relations between themselves. Then I think the weather has some influence on that, but the social behavior here make me feel at home. It means people go to have lunch or dinner with friends, they stay on the table a long time, they say goodbye on the table, they stand up, they say goodbye again a few meters later, and so on. And this is the behavior we also feel and we have in Portugal. Then when I'm here, I feel very much at home. Okay. There is another fact that is important, and is a small difference compared with Macau, where I live as well, is on the social and political tolerance. Okay, Taiwan is probably the most democratic country in Asia, and is also the most tolerant country in terms of behaviors between people. Then I should say sexuality. Homosexual is accepted very much in Taiwan, and this is not what you see in other countries. This is a big difference. I should say that the democracy in here is also quite new, and there's some effects. I also remember our democracy. I come from a period that I born during a dictatorial system in Portugal, and there was a revolution in 1974. Then I was a young guy on that time, young architect, and it was moments quite critical where sometimes we come from a regime that was typical fascist, and we look to the directors that we have and we work with, and somehow I feel strange that on the immediately turnover of the revolution, people stand up and call them fascists. And I know them, and they don't look fascists. Because when you have moments of crisis and mood change, sometimes everything is too extreme. And it was easy for anybody that has the power of conduct a service, to be typified as a fascist. Luckily, I was working in a place with 17 people. We work in the same place, almost in the same room. Then we know each other. And my director is a nice guy. He's never a fascist. I never listen him to be a fascist. But saying that, I also feel sometimes here some intolerance on the political point of view. Mm-hmm. And if I can say something with my age and my experience, be more tolerant. Democracy is implicit to the democracy different points of view. if you don't have different point of views, it's not a democracy. That's the message I can say. Then I also see in my own company, sometimes my staff, they talk about the political parties they are connect. And they almost hate each other. I feel a little bit strange. Because I think, and I say to them, if you don't tolerate another voice, you are running to be a dictator. And this is what you should avoid. And this is the one thing I should say I feel important to pass this message to young generation as you, because probably from these rooms, some of you will be important people in the future conducting this country. And that's all I can say about difference and similarities between the two sides of the strait in this one.
Yeah, so it's a very good comment about the differences and similarity between the two Chinese society you've been through, right? So in Macau, obviously, it's governed by the Chinese government right now, so it's much more strict in terms of democracy. That's zero again, right? But here, as you said, that we have democracy in our society, but it's rather new. We are embracing this new trend, but at the same time, we should be more open-minded to be more tolerant about the different voices in our society. I think that's a very good comment as an outsider, because you are with different cultural backgrounds, so you have the right to say that. And I believe some people in Taiwan, they do have very strong political opinions, but again, they can have that. But at the same time, they should have the kind of the open-minded kind of, I mean, they need to be open-minded in a way to let the others to express their own opinion as well, right? So that's something we should be improved upon, I believe so. Okay, thank you for the sharing. So the second question is that, Portugal was the one of the first European nations to establish historical connection with Taiwan through Macau. Okay, but the formal diplomatic ties have been limited in modern times due to the complex geopolitical tensions, especially in East Asia. So as someone who bridges both culture professionally and personally, how do you use the culture and business exchange, like Tuga projects, right, to continue the unofficial diplomatic relationship between Portugal and Taiwan?
Well, we established Tuga in 2015, and for me, I discovered with my practice that we had an important role, really, to bridge two different countries. Initially, I still remember that nobody knows almost where is Portugal when I opened the door, Tuga. And people walk inside driven by new experience, new food. Let's go to see what is this. And then they found the food, and in the progress work that we did it on here, there was at the same time Portugal had been nominated few times as the best destinations in the world by CNN and other institutions and so on. I don't say that we are the key factor to make Portugal more known. We have our own contribution, and I think we did it. Also, there was some travel agents starting to try to do operations with Portugal, and they used Tuga as a place to do their introduction tours. They used Tuga as a place to do the closing dinner when they come back from Portugal. And somehow I understood that our job and what we are doing in Tuga, because Tuga is much more than food, is a business model that we can talk later more closely. We try to promote the country as a whole and introduce the country, and it's through that introduction that I strongly believe that Portugal has a lot of good products in terms of food, our cuisine, our gastronomy, the wines we have, that those tools are very important for me, and that's what driven all our concepts. But this is also open the door to make Portugal more known. And today, a lot of people go to Tuga, and I noticed in 10 years, now Many people go and sit and they already come back from Portugal or they are planning to go. Then Portugal suddenly is known. As I said, I'm sure it's not only Tuga, it's a lot of factors in conjunction, but we did a part of the job as well, and I'm happy for that.
Yeah, you're right. So when we talk about Portugal, right? So what do you think about Portugal? When we speak about Portugal, what kind of image or metaphor you think that associate with Portugal? I think most people in Taiwan would say egg tart, right? So that's the most obvious, the food image that we'll think about Portugal. So I have to admit that we have really little knowledge about this country, not only because we have no any official diplomatic relations with Portugal as a government level, but also people there, we really know little. So that's why I invited you here. And I do encourage students to know more about European countries other than the most well-known UK, France, Germany. I think Portugal is one of them and also doing very well. Okay, so we will talk more about the business model later on, right? So I think we can move on to the next questions. Okay, so I have to admit that I've been to Macau about 20 years ago, which is really a long time ago. And I've been fascinated by how quickly Macau transformed after the handover, but particularly the blend with the Portuguese, the colonial architecture, because I've been there, I see that a lot of architecture that are much more Portuguese style. And now we see a lot of the modern casino developments over there. I think everybody knows about that. So as an architect who helped shape Macau's urban landscape during its crucial transition period, what vision did you have for the city? And also, how do you feel about its development today?
If we talk about cities, there is a big difference between what I find in Europe and Asia. I think any single village or city in Europe that we drive through, there is a center.
Yeah.
And the center is even part of the signage when you drive a car. Center. And we go to the center. And the center is always a main square, where is the most important part of a city. When I moved to Asia, I found a different concept of cities. I just give you an example. Bangkok. What is the center of Bangkok? Nobody knows. Okay? But let's go to localize on here. Where is the center of Taipei? I should say the center is not the center on the sense side. I say that is a physical point that where everything converges and is almost like the heart and the beginning of a village or a city. That's what we have in Europe. Okay, if you look to Portugal, Rocio is the center, and everybody knows it's the center. This is what we have in the European countries. In here, it looks that the cities grow up on a different way, more by combinations of surroundings and establish of where people live, and there is not a driven center. I found there is a new center for me, which is the area around 101. It was designed recently. Then is a modern area that is the most important area, and there is the old one near the river, nice to visit as well, which we understood it was a center on the past, but it never got the feeling of a center. And this is a big difference. However, what is funny is Portugal ruled Macau for under 42 years. And you go to Macau and you find the center. The city is organized like the European cities because it was really ruled during many years by a country that is European. And you have a center, Liosnad is our center. Even there is a road, central road, end up on Liosnad. And there is a design based on the necessity of a heart for the cities. When I arrived there, we are in a period that I need to prepare the city for the new developments. There was an agreement between China and Portugal to hand over Macau in 25 years' time. And this was immediately after our revolution, 1974. In 1975, we decided to give independence to all the colonies that had been ruled by the Portuguese, including Taiwan. Macau asked us to hold on 25 years to prepare ourselves and to create also an organization in the city that could survive by itself as an autonomous region. This was important for China, for things that you know quite well, Hong Kong, even Taiwan, they have the policy of autonomy and so on. Then I was working for the government in Macau, in Portugal, and I was invited to join the Macau government at that time, ruled by the Portuguese, to create the basis for the development of the city. And I found out a city that was designed European style, with a lot of heritage over there that I believe we need to preserve for the future. And I need also to design the city to be prepared for the big developments that was already on the dreams of the politicians. This was related with the casino development that it happens later. Okay, When I arrived, there was one single casino. Stanley Hall ruled the casino business, and today we have 6 operators and a huge development that created the Mecca of the casinos in Asia. Okay, but this Mecca requests another thing. Casinos is one thing, but you can imagine the labors that is necessary to fill up and to put in operation the casino. There was no population in Macau. When I arrived, we are less than 300 people. Now we are more than 700,000. Okay? 300,000 to less than 300,000, 270,000, and now is more than 700,000. That is a big difference, and the city needs to be prepared for that. And my mission was to prepare the planning for that, and somehow preserve the whole city center for the future generations. Because I think cities are like books. We write every day. There is a new page to be written. And there are pages we take off. The pages are less interesting, and the pages who should stay, the ones that are iconic as representing a period of the culture of a country or a style, and we need to preserve them. This is books. The problem of the cities today is the speed of the transformation. Before, in the 50s, how many buildings are replaced in the city? Few, one here, one there, very few. Today, we can have like a bulldozer cleaning up areas of the cities to create new buildings. And this is the problem that we face today, is the speed of the transformation of the cities and the movement that it has, increasing from people coming from the rural to the cities. And it was my job is to create the basis of this transformation and the planning for that. And I think we succeed. Even today, if you go to Macau, you have the old town, and it's preserved by, it's not buildings, it's areas. And this is more important than buildings. Of course, the areas have the buildings, but areas give the sense of the period and of the style of the living in the past. And this is important for the memory of everybody.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I think that you got several key points here. That the first one is that obviously the Western world and Asia, they have different definition of the city center. Right? For instance, in Taipei, how do you define the city center of Taipei? Maybe people will pursue that it should be somewhere near Xinyi district, right? But in Macau, which is obviously it's more European style, you have the old town, right? And also the new city center. So I've been to many European countries by myself. I do notice that when we talk about a city center, I can always sense a feel of this area must be the city center, because you can see the old and very ancient building that are being preserved by their own governments. And of course, there's a new area under new developments, but you can sense that there's a historical heritage being preserved very well by them. And so also another point you mentioned about your job as an architect in Macau was helping the governments during the transformation process. At the same time, you preserve the heritage, but also you also develop the new projects, right? So you kind of in a transition phase. and you learn about how to preserve the culture at the same time for the new business developments here. I just wondering that why there are differences of the definition between the city center. Are you assuming that because in European countries, when you define a city center, they are usually kind of the combination of the political power and the business prosperity, or do you also only focus on political power?
I think it's the both.
It's the both, okay.
It's the both things, honestly speaking. I think it is. I also think that the process in Europe was very long and sedimentary. It means the periods, cultural periods, the Renaissance, all the different periods we have, you can find in Europe step by step. This creates some kind of a long process that can be seen today on the buildings, on the design of this. In here, just give an example. We moved from the imperial times in China to the modern times in one go. In one generation, you move, and this doesn't happen. Okay, we have also emperor times in Europe, but thousands of years ago, there was a process with more steps, and here's a big transition. This has reflects also on the organization of the cities, like it or not, I believe.
Yeah, so we have a different city organization, right, and different ways of managing the city. But it's really good that you can, from an architectural point of view, to speak up what are the differences between the different city style to Europe and Taiwan. Okay, thank you. Because I didn't notice that. Even though I traveled to Europe, I didn't notice that. Okay, thank you. Also about your project, Shanghai Expo, when I searched online, I found this picture. I think everybody can see the slide. I was really blown away by the materials you use, right? So the material, I believe it called cork. Collecting, right? Is it cork? Okay.
Hello? Okay. It's fully cork. Okay. What you see on here are pieces of 900 millimeters by 600 and 5 cm thickness. This is cork, the same cork we use on the bottles of wine. And this produced by, we are the biggest manufacturers of cork in the world. Yes. This comes from a tree, is the skin of a tree. And the company is the biggest producer in the world. And they support the government, is a promotion for them to use cork. And I was able to receive cork, which is a material, I love it, it's natural. And inside, I got also the chance to use a lot of experimental materials they are testing. We cannot forget that this Shanghai Expo was the biggest ever expo in the world. Millions of people use it. Every day, the operators of the pavilion, each pavilion has a team to do maintenance. This never ever happened in the past. More and more we have signs to don't touch, whatever. It looks more we put signage, don't touch, more they touch. They walk inside quickly and they touch everything, and we need to have maintenance. I have a very interesting story about this building. One night, we replaced along the period of 6 months of exhibition around more than 400 pieces of cork in the facade because they scratch the facade. They use the fingers because they don't know what is this. It's a new material. It smells around 1 kilometer smell cork. Fantastic smell. And they go inside to see what is this and on the facade and so on. Then they need to replace all the time. And one night, I was walking by the end, around 10 o'clock, we close the pavilion, we go dinner. And we go dinner usual with the contractor. He takes us for different places and so on. I was walking with him, and there was an old lady with a full plate in her hand. And she was stopped by me, and I questioned through the translation of him, what is she doing? Because she took a full piece, from the facade. And she was traveling, maybe scared, and she told me, because I love it and I want to have a memory and at home. And I say, okay, take it. Then I never forgot that because it was a material that for them it was very strange. The apartment of this, the idea for this facade, because we used a building that was pre-built, it was a square, parallelepiped. It was to use the lines of the maps that the Portuguese navigators used in the past to navigate. Then this is the inspiration for this, and of course we obstruct a little bit in volume out and in to create. It's not a map flat, but we create volume on this. But the inspiration was that, only that. And the cork make the job. Inside we used a lot of materials to test, to see how they can survive with the intensive use. On the floor, on the walls, toilets, everything we use. Things that were not on the market yet. Mm-hmm. It was a driving test on place, on the site. Okay. It was very interesting on that.
Okay, thank you again. Thank you for sharing. Just give you some background information. So in 2024, Portugal exported about $1.25 billion worth of cork and cork products. In Mandarin, called it 软木. Okay, so it smells like trees. Okay, and making it the world's largest exporter of the cork products. I think Portugal has always been the largest exporter of the cork products. So I think it's really a critical materials to represent Portugal. So if you had ever had chance to visit Portugal, you can see that there are some shops, they're only selling the cork products. Okay, so it's really good to have it as a souvenir that to prove you being visited Portugal. Okay, so I think you already shared about the design and also some fascinating story about how the Chinese lady took away and inspired by you, right? So it's really interesting. Okay, so we can move on to the next question. Because I still remember when we met in last November over lunch at your Tuga restaurants, and you share your personal journey with us. We were quite amazed because it's not every day you see someone go from the high-speed world of Formula One to the cultural entrepreneurship, right? So what inspired you to transition from the designing Formula One circuits to establishing a Portugal cultural enterprise in Taiwan? Also, how do your architectural principles influence your business approach?
Okay, first of all, why Formula One? Unluckily, I have a son that is a professional racing driver. Mm-hmm. Then I build up him, then I follow up his progress. He never did Formula One, he tested Formula One. He could not have money for that. But we did all the formulas below. But I know about racing and the background of racing. The background is more important than racing. It's like a theater. The stage is the most important thing, is not the audience. Mm-hmm. And this is the same principle. Then I was, luckily, I got awards in Shanghai. I think this moved me up international. And somehow a company from Taiwan, Lipao, they found me and they invite me to design a circuit in Taichung that exists. And this makes me come to Taiwan for the first time and later on meet her and so on. And this is, okay, the Formula One. Now, after that, I move in the business of restaurants by accident, completely. I never think about having a restaurant. I was always saying to my kids at home, that's the only thing in my life, I'll never do it. And I end up with one. And why? Because my client, Mr. Wu from Lipao, he tried a Portuguese wine and he enjoyed a lot during the dinner with me that I was hosting him. And by the end of the day, he asked me if I can help him to find this wine because he has big functions and so on. Then I took a photo. I'm an old guy. I found easily the producer and I call him and I ask his contacts to pass, but I was not thinking any business of wine. And then that's what happened. I pass to him. He start. Each time I come for another meeting, he asks me about the wine, if I order. And I say to him, no, I'm not going to order. I'm an architect, please, no. And keep on going. That's where I met her. And suddenly understood, I also know Chinese mentality, why it pressured me so much to order wine for him when he has 16 hotels in Taiwan. He has a team sufficient to do the job. It was a matter of confidence. And I told Candy, okay, let's go, help me please to make a company. I need to please him. But I was not seeking no more than that. Then, and from a short business of bringing some pallets, keep on going here and more, and some friends and so on, then we end up on the situation that it was time to jump. And that's where we decided to create Tuga. And initial, it was a project, everything I learned by experience. I don't know. First, I need to find a chef. Luckily, I found one that is still with me from the beginning, and is very good one. But if I want to do prices and so on, zero on that time. It was a tough experience to walk up, to be entrepreneur, and to do all these things. But I think what driven us, it was the passion. Okay, I love my country. I study a lot. I'm a milk drink addict. Okay, I love milk, not wine. She likes wine, lucky for me. But I know about wine because I study. I know the winemakers. We visit them. Usually, we never import wines that we never meet the producers. The producers in Portugal are families. And this is amazing also, this process, because they have the love involved on the business, and through them we know the others also, who is good on here and so on. Then we establish a business model that is very related to represent a country. I think the French are the best example of that. They use the gastronomy to promote their wines. And somehow I end up doing the same. I focus on wine is my business. And I used to say I have a wine shop that is disguised to look like a restaurant. And what's driven the people to walk in is the food, is not the wine. But when they have the food and they want to have authentic food, then they start to drink wine and they discover the Portuguese wines, which for me, I believe they are so good as the French and the Spanish and so on. Everybody has good wines and also bad wines. Don't work with bad wines is a secret. Keep the good wines coming and do authentic food in a way, because it's still today the hook for the fish to come in. Okay, and this is my business model in very brief explanation.
So everything was by accident, right?
It was by accident.
So I don't know if you ever visited Tuga restaurants in Taipei. I visited once last year, and I was really amazed by the food, the really traditional Portuguese food, about all kinds of seafood, right? And also the wine, of course. Porto wine is very famous in your shop. Okay. I think in Taiwan, most people are familiar with the wine, the red wine, maybe from France or Australia, Chile, or America, right? But very little knowledge about Porto wine. But I do believe that people should know more about this knowledge, because Porto wine is really a strong wine, sweet and strong, and it's very special wine, I think, categories in the world. And also just a background story that when I visited Portugal, because I visited the winery factories, one of them called Canary or something. It's in Porto, I forgot the name. And I was told that Portugal has the largest variety of the grapes in the world. It's around 250 varieties in the world, but I didn't know that again. So it's really worth traveling to the country and to know more about the traditions, the way how they make wines, and they still do that for now. Okay, so it's about the wine. We're gonna talk about it later. And let's go back to the Tuga restaurant. I showed a picture here. This is the picture I found online. And for me, Tuga seems to be more than just a restaurant. Okay, it appears to be a cultural embassy. So can you explain how does the name come from, Tuga? Because explain it for me before. And also, how do you balance maintaining the Portuguese tradition and while adapting to the Taiwanese tastes and preferences?
Okay, Tuga name is simple. It's like to be a Aussie for the Australians, or a Kiwi for the New Zealanders. We are Tugas. I'm a Tuga. and comes from the name Portugal. If you see the name, it's easy. You can isolate 2 syllables, and it's Tuga. We are all Tuga. We have 2 more on here. Okay, today. If we have a soccer team going to play, we go to support. The name was obvious for me to choose that one. We identify a lot with this nickname that we have. The second question, I think, is about...
Yeah, how do you maintain... Yeah, because in Taiwan, we have our own preferences,
okay.
Right?
I just do it what we do in Portugal. No adaptations. And I think, honestly speaking, I think this is what people should expect when they walk in. If I try to adjust the food for any taste that I know already, that exists and I like it, I will do a mistake, because what driven people to go inside Tuga is to find Portuguese food, and they need to have Portuguese food. We have difference on that, okay? I just do 2 things, okay? One, reduce the salt. If you go to Portugal, we eat our food is very salty. It's so salty that now when I go to Portugal, I also say, too salty, so bad. Another thing is on the desserts. We also cut the sugar, but nothing more than that. And this is also what I see today, a goal that exists also in Portugal. Reduce the salt and the sugar, because everybody knows it's not good for the health. And there is also a tendency to do the same. But in terms of cooking styles, totally this. I'm not favorable to gourmet food. Big plate with a small piece, okay. I like home-style food, and this is what we try to do. We avoid using frozen, no frozen. If you do everything fresh, is a must, and you go on the right direction. Of course, we have something unique also that we bring from Portugal. Codfish. I don't know why, but we are the biggest producers of codfish and the biggest consumers in the world. And we don't have cod in our waters. We are in the Atlantic Ocean. We need to go to the Arctic. And we do this from 500 years ago. In 1508, 10% of the fish in Portugal was already codfish. And because there is no freezers, they need to preserve with the traditional things that we use, everybody uses in Asia as well. Salt it and dry it. And this is dry-aged fish, like dry-aged meat, which today there is a tendency on the high cuisine to dry-age the things. Then we are already trending for 500 years, and we keep it, okay? We bring the codfish from Portugal. Our codfish we use the best in the world. Another thing interesting in our Tuga is the canned food. There is a huge tradition of canned food. There was a lot of factories in the past. This was related with the First War in Europe, because there was a need to produce food that could be able for the people fighting in the front lines in trench. They cannot move it. They use canned food for it. It was an invention, not from Portugal, but from a French guy, this kind of system. And today we have canned food that is still doing on the traditional way. Fresh fish coming on spot in front of the factory, in the beach, cook on the same day, pack in the can after be cooked. Everything is manual, no machinery. This is something you don't find in the majority of the factories doing canned food in Europe. But in Portugal, we still insist, thanks to God, there are still owners of factories, they still insist on the old method. And it's a big difference when you try canned food, sardines, like that, doing freshly, or sardines that come frozen. They buy the fish frozen and they produce the things on a different way. And this is something we try to do. We also bring, and we insist to bring, Portuguese wines that are different. I don't know if you are aware, but only 3% of the waters, gas waters, that you see on the supermarket are natural. Everything you buy, Evian and so on, is man-made. You open a bottle and the gas goes, and your stomach feels full. We have waters in Portugal that are natural, and they are gassed, And the bubbles are so small, you can open the bottle and leave it open all day, and at night still gas. And because it is sold for 3,000 years, this is what we bring. We have also alkaline waters, natural, because the majority of them are also man-made. We have natural, Monchique, we bring from Portugal. And this is things we insist to bring quality and to brand Portugal as a country with quality products, quality food, and quality wine. This is what we try to do it in Tuga.
Yeah, I tried the seafood, especially the codfish and the sardine in your restaurants. I also did the same thing when I was in Portugal a couple weeks ago. And I saw that in every supermarket, there is a section that was selling the, like you just said, about large pieces of codfish, right? They are dry, they are salty, and a really strong smell. And when I cannot really stay there for about 1 minute or so. And I can see that how people preserve the tradition to make the traditional dish. And not to mention the sardine canned food. I think that's a good way to represent Portugal as well. And I tried several different types of sardine canned food in Portugal. I found that the ingredients are really simple. Just the fish, as you said, they're freshly cooked, and just the olive oil, and maybe some salt or maybe black pepper, and that's it. And it's really fresh. Even you cannot imagine that you to have that as a canned food. So a very different way of treating the fish in Portugal and Taiwan. Because in Taiwan, we do the canned food with fish. It's always very salty, and there's a lot of the, added something, I don't know, the red, different type of colors, right? So you see the different way to treat the fish. So I think we can take a break for now, okay, for 10 minutes. And we come back, we will continue our interactive session. Thank you.